Hello everybody, today I'm gonna show you how methods can be used to make changes within a list. The methods are very capable and can do many changes within the list, and I want to show you today how they can be used. Here you can see a bunch of methods that can be used to make changes to the lists, and I want to start with method named append. Append can add a value x to the list, and technically it can add the value of x to the list here, which is replaced with name. So we should write name as the list name that append, and within the parentheses the value that we are going to add to the list. The next method is remove, which is in opposite of append, and it can remove the value x from that list. The next method is index. This method can be used when we have a very large number of values within the list, but we don't know what are the index numbers or what are their addresses. So now by using this method and the value that we are going to have the address or the index number, we can use name.index and within the parentheses the value that we are going to have its address or its index. This information can be used, for example, in the method insert, where it asks us about the index number. The insert that is going to replace the a value which in the address of index I with x. So here we definitely need the index number. So by having method index, we can have the address first, and then in the next line we can recall it and then replace it with any number and stuff like that. The next method is count, which can return the number of repetition of x value within a long list. The next method is extend, and as it appears, we can extend a list with another data or with another list or with another data within from list. So the syntax is very important in here. Which list should be added to which list? So technically it works like an add function, and it can add name list to X list. Here the priority is the list name, which is in the left side of this method. We call it name in here. And the next one is X. So technically the new data from X should be added to the end of the previous list, which is here name. The next method is insert, which is kind of like append, but it has more freedom. In append, the x value is added to the end of the list, but here we have the freedom to add the x value after each value. For example, here I is the index number within the list. So when I use the index number and then x value, the x value will be added after the value of the index number there. The next method is sort, which which is obviously can sort the list, but you should remember that if the list is all of the indices are integer, it can sort it. If all of the lists are string, it can sort it. But if you have a list which is a combination of integer numbers and strings, it will give you an error and it cannot sort it anyway. Okay, now let's go to have some sort of examples to see how these methods can work. Let's define a new list X, and we can write some new courses, for example, within that list. I wanna then I wanna add another course to this list. So for this purpose, I can use method append, and within the parentheses, since this is an integer, it should be in a quotation, and I write algebra And then when I print it, you can clearly see that algebra is added to the end of the list. Also, you can add an integer number to the list, so you can clearly see that when I write let's x that append 45, so by this definition, the 45 will be added as a number. Now I want to remove that from the list, so for this I can say list x that remove, and then I can write 45 within the parentheses, and you can see that when I print list x, number 45 is removed from the list. Also, I can use this method to remove another indexes, another values within that list, and as you can see, when I use that, the help is automatically pops up, and we can find different methods within that, and it can help you which method is used can be used for this list. So now if I want to remove Arabic, I just simply write list x dot remove Arabic, and then when I return that, I can see I just have math, physics, algebra. And if you mistype the string, you will get an error that there is no actually a string like that within that list, and you should be very careful when you are writing strings. It should be all the same. Now let's go to find index number of each elements in our list. So I should write list x dot index, and you should remember that our final list x includes math, physics, and algebra. For example, math will have index number 0. Now you can see that a string math will have the index number 0 within that list. So let's add another math with capital M to the list with the method append, and then let's count how many math we have within that list. So if I write list x dot append math and then return this and then use the method list x dot count and then write math within that these quotations. You should remember that one of them is with a small m and the other one starts with capital M. So when I ask number of math within that list, it's definitely number one because there are two different math within the list. Again, if I use algebra with a small a, so it apparently will return me 0 because the algebra within that list starts with capital A. The next method is extend, which is like an add function to add the list to the end of its. So to do that, I just need to write list x dot extend and again write list x within the two parentheses. That means that I'm gonna add list x to the end of list x. Let's see what's happened. Now if I print list x, let's see what it pops up. So you can see that list x is actually repeated 2 times, and this is the new list x that we will have. We can also define the new list that is gonna added extended actually to the list x within the two parentheses itself directly. You don't have to define the list before that and then use the extend method in here. You can directly define the new list within the two parentheses of this method and then add it to the end of the list x. For example, I want to add English and chemistry to the end of list x. So here I can define the new list within the parentheses with the definition of the list in here, and then by applying this method I can have these two courses to the end of list x. And when I have list x, you can clearly see at the end of this list I will have English and chemistry. Now let's move to insert method. And as I told you, insert method needs an index number to add the new value within that list with this specific index number. Now, for example, if I want to add 4C to this list and I want to have that with the fifth elements, which is index number 4, I should write list x dot insert 4 and 4C within the two quotation marks. You should remember that insert will add this course at the index number 4 and it won't replace that elements in the index number 4 within the list. Now the length of list x is 11, which is one added to the previous one. And the last method is using sort, so I'm gonna define another list, list y, which is some integers, and I wanna use the method sort to sort these numbers within that list. So now if I write list y that sort, and within the two parentheses should be white, and then just by clicking enter you can clearly see that the numbers are in sort manner. Also, this method can be used to sort letters. For example, list z, which is a number of numbers of letters in here, DAZS, and I use method sort. You can clearly see that the letters are in a sort manner.